connecting the To-Do app to an ExpressJS backend using MongoDB. Um, it's gonna be both a kind of walkthrough for me and whoever is listening to this, because apart from preparing this To-Do app, I didn't really, prepare for the whole backend thing. But I guess it should be a walk in the park. The idea of this tutorial is to help people that you know that just need to backend programming, just to have an idea of how it all works. Um, you might have to pardon me. I'm using TypeScript. Reason for that is because I just enjoy doing that. So I'm going to give you like a walkthrough of how this app is created. Um, so basically, I'm using a Next.js framework, which is always better to use, easier to use, less stressful to use compared to trying to use a, a pure React framework project. So it's better to use, easier to use Next.js. So the version I'm using here is Next 14. I think that's kind of like the latest. Let's see what the latest is. Latest Next.js version. Okay, so we already have 15, but yeah, I'm using 14 here. I'm going to make this very brief so we can always move forward as quickly as we can. And if you can see, like, this is the base entry. This is like the index, basically, like the entry file. And as you can see, I have a simple form, which is what you see here. That's description. It has due date. It has priority. I'm mapping the priorities from here, and these priorities have different colors, right? So, and then there is a hard button, and then if you look at it closely, if you go to the CSS file, you can see that, I mean, that is why I do the heavy lifting for the colors and all of that, which is hard coded in, and that was why I was able to make add the colors as a class right here. So with that being said, let's close this up for a bit and try to create a React.js app. So normally I would, let's just go out to create. So I said React.js, I meant ExpressJS. How to create an ExpressJS project. Normally I love using WAP, and I think WAP as the suggestion it gives to me each time when I'm trying to like create an ExpressJS app. Just to be safe, let's try to create a new directory. Let's call it to do backend. To do backend. Let's go to do backend. Okay, and then let's try to. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to express, nps create ExpressJS. Anyways, let me just search the internet and see how to create an ExpressJS app using TypeScript. We could decide to use any of the tutorials, but I mean, okay, let's use this. So basically, you have Node installed. I already have Node and Node.js installed. I expect you already do. So let's create a Node.js project. I think we already did, right? We already did. Yeah, we already did. Did we already? Yeah, we created a project, like a folder, basically. So let's initialize that folder. I'm leaving that. The -y here simply means, okay, so normally, if you know, like if you do npm init, it will ask you a couple of questions, but if you do npm init -y, it just gives you defaults, right? Instead of asking you questions of, okay, what's the package name and all of that. And if we open this in, sorry, I have a code, so I'm sounding this way, and as you can see, like we have our basic package.json file. So the next thing we want to do is we want to install Express, and because we're using TypeScript, we'll have to install TypeScript and the types for Express. and TS Node is TypeScript version of running Node in the terminal. For instance, you could run Node this way. Like if we could try to just create a file. Let's create a file. Touch index.js. Nope, .js. Let's try .js, and then I could just say const a equals to 1 plus 1, right? And then I console log a, right? I can run this from here and just say node index, right? And it will give me the answer a2. So but now we're using TypeScript, right? So you can't I'm not sure you can use the same thing for TypeScript. I doubt if it works. So you can see there's an error because node index is no longer a JS file, it's now a TypeScript file. So to make that work, you need to install something like an TS node, right? So before we do that, let's just follow this tutorial, right, and install Express. Then when we install this, I'll be able to show you how TS node works just the same way as node. So let's install Express, and before it's done, let's go back here to copy the remaining ones. And as you can see, the -ds simply means it's going to install as a dev dependency. If I'm correct, a dev dependency simply means a kind of dependency that it's for your environment. Basically, it doesn't compile with your code. If your code is running in production, like live, it will necessarily not run inside your code, but basically just, I would say dev dependency just allows you to have a better environment for running your code, but it never gets compiled eventually. And I hope in this tutorial we'll be able to compile our code. And when I say compiled, it never gets built. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but if you run your code and you build it into a build file, it will not go with it. So that's why I say dev dependency. So let's copy that and then install our dev dependency. So with that, as you can see, it's all installed here. But the thing is, let's see if we can run index. So thing is, the reason why I can run it from the terminal is probably because I didn't install it globally. Although it's still needed while I think I do need this while I'm building my code, because basically when you're running TypeScript, you want to be able to run you want to use TS node to convert your TypeScript code into JavaScript code, because you're still going to have to run this in Node.js, and Node.js basically understands Node, JavaScript, and not TypeScript. So you need TS node to build it and convert your TypeScript to JavaScript basically. But then for the previous example I did make, let's try to install Node globally, TS node rather globally. I think that should be -big G, right? If I'm correct. And so wait a minute, my correct with this? I could easily forget these things. All right, yeah, it's yeah. So you can see now I ran TS node index and it brings it out now. So with that being said, let's move forward. So now we need to create the tsconfig file, tsconfig JSON file, right? And this is just going to affect how TypeScript converts our code into JavaScript. Let's leave it as that. And how JavaScript also, like TypeScript also performs the typing while we're working. Right, I think that's good. There's no need to explain all of this. I mean, let's just move forward. And then we create a source file. That is where all our codes are going to be. There's majority of them. Actually, that's where all the code that we're going to build, that is going to be running, that's where it's going to be. So make src, and then we put in our index.js file. So index.ts rather. So let's drag this index, the one I created, into src, remove it, remove the code inside, and then put the fresh one that I copied from here. So now a brief explanation here. Like, Express is a framework, it's a server framework. You can actually decide to not use Express to run your server and just use, bare metal Node.js code, you know, bare metal in code now, but like, the basic Node.js server. But now Express is the base default, I would say. I don't think there's anything else out there that does it at a lower level, apart from Express. I think a lot of other frameworks out there also use Express under the hood, kind of. So yeah, that's it. So basically, when you look at this, we have our app. This is the way you run an Express framework server. You import Express from Express, blah blah, blah, and then you assign it to a constant, which is usually like app, always named app. I'll say, and then you try to. So you can do a couple of things here. You could do app.post, you could do app.get, you could do app.delete, you could do app.patch. So these things are called verb, right? So we would first of all start with app.get, and then the way that goes, we'll be able to use that to explain the other ones. I open this tutorial, I'll be able to cover like the other, verbs. So they're called verbs actually. So that we can try to Google that. Just say HTTP list of HTTP verbs. So this is the Oracle website. So we have get wait, no, it's not what I'm looking forward to. Wow, never knew we had up to like 39 total like HTTP verbs, but the basic ones are. I can just type it out for you, really, since I can't easily find it here. And it's so funny that, okay, yeah, this is the basic ones, and I'm going to try to I think this guy's talking too much, like, they're saying too much. So I'm going to create. Do I need to do this? Okay. So you just post, get, put, patch, and delete. I think there's an extra one, right? Yeah. And there are other ones, I suppose, but these are just the major ones. You post, you get, you put, you patch, and then you delete. So let's go back to what we're doing. To finish up our installation, let's add how we're going to be starting our files. We're going to be starting it using this command. So let's go back to our package.json, and then we put this in. Alright, so, and then we're ready to start work. So because I already put, let me clear this space, because I already put, the start command inside my script folder, not script folder, like inside of my script, inside my package.json script start. So I'm going to run, and then, yeah, let me talk about this idea. So basically, I already told you what tsnode does. So I'm going to use tsnode to run what is inside here, right? And then I'll be able to start our server. So let me run that first. But then before I do that, just know that in Express, the way you start a server is basically by assigning Express as a function into another constant, which you could name app, and then you now do app.listen on that, and then it takes two parameters. Basically, it takes a port, and then it takes a function. And as you can see, this function is a fat arrow function, and when you run your app, it listens at this port, and then it runs this function too. So the essence of this function is just to have a kind of visibility to see if your app is actually running. So the idea of listening, for those that might not know, is that when you run servers inside your system, when you run a server inside your system, they have to be working at a particular port. So basically, when we run our Express to do app the other time, it's running by it's also running on a server basically because it needs to have a port by which the browser can reach out to it, and it ran at a port of 3000. So your servers to, I mean your backend servers, you know, to the reason I'm kind of like skipping here is because when you look at the word backend and front end, sometimes I think it has gone into a point in time where it's kind of like inter interwoven. But then let's just leave it the way it is for now. So our you need a port for something to run from. So basically, the way I see it is when you call something a server, it's simply saying you're serving something out. So when you serve your front end app, like you need to serve it over a server, and then when you're serving your backend app, you also need to serve it over a server, basically, kind of, even though it's a server. And then yeah, so we need to do that on the port. So let's go back to our backend app, and so basically we're running inside. Let me just remove this to make it all simple, and then put the number directly inside the function. So it's going to be running at 3000, but then you do know we can't do that because our npm app is already our to do app is already running at 3000. And if let's see what happens when we try to do that. Oh, sorry, that should be npm run start. Come on, sorry, npm run start. So as you can see, it's saying that couldn't find. Okay, sorry. This one should be 3000. I just wanted to make it simple. That's why I just removed the whole constant thing. So this one is 3000. Then as you can see, it says listen EADDRINUC blah 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 address you use, all that kind of stuff. So we just put this at one. So basically, I think most of the time people like to run at 8000. So when we run this at 8000, it would show what we put inside our function here. As you can see, console log server is running on blah 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 and all of that. So if I say my name is let's assume my name is David, and then I say David server is running on, so I would need to rerun this, right? David server is running on HTTP localhost 3000. So now we want to move forward, right? There are other things I could talk about. An example is, oh, by the way, let me just leave that for now. Let's just move forward, and let me just say it so it doesn't feel like I'm putting you all in suspense. So there is a way by which you can run your servers and you run your code and make it automatically rerun itself whenever you change something. Because if you remember, when I changed this to David server, I needed to stop this code and then sort of like rerun it. So there's a way you could use something like NoDaemon to just automatically initiate a rerun. Let me tell you what I'm saying. So if I press npm run start, it says David server is running. If I change this to Solomon server, it wouldn't change right here. I have to stop it and then restart it. So if I wanted this to be automatic, an example of something you could use is called NoDaemon. I think we should quickly do that in a minute and use NoDaemon in a quick minute. We save it as a dev dependency. Like I told you, dev dependencies are just things that makes your code work easier and aid your work, typing, add typings to your code just with TypeScript, add types to your JavaScript, and then aid you in different things, but necessarily never gets compiled to your code. And that's why we're installing NoDaemon also as a dev dependency here. Another way to do this instead of save dev is the what we did before, -d. And then, so NoDaemon is expected to help you do what I just said before. I mean, allow you to be able to run your code without having to stop and restart all the time. It just automatically detects changes and restarts your code for you. So let's go to, we've installed it, but I think it needs a little bit of configuration. Trust me, I'm not prepared to, not exactly prepared myself to do this, but I could, I'm pretty sure it's kind of like easy to do. Okay, wait, my application accepted errors, blah, blah, blah. So we're just going to use something really simple, right? In this situation, not the best. Excuse me more. So I think that what we're going to do now, just to make this really quick, is we're going to create a quick config, right? A quick node daemon config. So basically, the node daemon config is supposed to just, so we'll put that inside our package.json. I hope this works really fast so we don't waste our time on this. Package.json. So we'll put a node daemon config there. I think right here. And then the idea of the node daemon config is just to determine what files get detected and what doesn't get detected. Like, which of the file changes do you really want it to see each time, basically. So I'm going to remove all this because I don't really need it. And then I'm going to try to okay, so I guess I found what I want. Trust me, I rarely set this kind of things up. And it's so funny that it doesn't even have like a quick setup thing. I think I'm going to just check another tutorial and then quickly see how it's used. So we just call through this, and then yes, we found something. We found something. So yes, we found this. Excuse me more. So we just want to see. So basically, I think I'll just put this. So we would create a new script, and what this script wouldn't be called would be now, if I wouldn't say this is the best name for what we're running before, I think we should just call it dev instead of npm run start each time. So next time we want to run this, we just say npm run start instead. Npm run dev is better. I think npm run start is better used in production. So I'm going to now do something called dev wash. So dev wash simply means I'm running in dev, but I'm also monitoring whatever it is that I'm doing. So I'm going to put this one as src. I don't know if this will run because this is TypeScript. So I'm going to see if that runs the way I expect it to. Does it? It doesn't. So basically, I think the reason why it's not running is because watch server. Okay, so excuse me, src. Sorry, this is wrong. It's src index.ts. So we close that up and then we run this, and Filmon server is running. Thank God that didn't take a lot of time. So basically, it's saying here that you could enter rs. Rs simply means if you want to restart the app yourself automatically, you press rs and it restarts. So let's try to change Solomon server here to let's look for somebody else like Joshua server, and then we'll come back here and it's actually reloaded itself. Beautiful. So let's move forward, right? We've been able to achieve like installing our Express app and then automatically adding new daemon to wash our changes. So let's go back to the initial tutorial we're following, and I think the tutorial is ended. So we're almost coming to the end of this whole thing, right? So I don't like the way this is big, so I'm just gonna try to. Anyways, let's just leave it that way. So we're trying to create a TODO app, right? So we should come in. We need to talk about this. So basically, let's go back here. Let's try to create a README file and talk a bit through what we really want to do. So to do backend, right? And then we want to create a couple of endpoints, that adds to do, right? Adds to do, deletes to do, and then maybe should we do updates here? Okay, let's try updates. That shouldn't take too much time. Update to do, and then we also want to be able to do what's least to do. So if we're going to do all of this, we need to determine like, so now we would start with one, right? We'll start with how to add it to do from the back end, from the front end to the back end. So the concept of you having to connect your front end application to the back end is basically because you want to store those files somewhere. I mean, that's the basic reason most of the time. You want to store your files somewhere. Let me check my battery life. Okay. You want to store your file somewhere. So now we want to store this file. Where are we going to store this file? I don't want us to use all this, normal like stories, like all those like non-retaining storage, like non-persistent storage. When I say non-persistent storage, I mean storage that disappears when you reload the server. You understand? So we want to be able to store this inside the database. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like you want it to be in a place that even if your server goes down, it's just staying there, lying there. Whenever your server comes up, you still go there to pick it up. So let me give you an example. So let's change this one. So when you're trying to add something, you want to use post. Not like you can use something else like put. You could do that. I think put and post may suffice for that, but most of the time you want to use post, and that's because it's kind of like the standard. So let's use post for this, and let's determine how our to do is going to look like. So basically, when you're sending things from the front end, you probably want to do it in a JSON format. So how is our to do going to look like? So let's look at our form and use that. So it's going to have description, it's going to have due date, and it's going to have priority. So description, it's going to have description. So instead of writing it here, we could just write it as a type. That's why I like using TypeScript. It's just like it just helps. So types.ts, I could do interface to do, and I could say description is a string, due date is a string. No, this could be a date, but let's just use it as a string for now. So priority is low, medium, high. We could just use instead of just a string, let's just use it this way. Do I want it to be in caps? No. Let's just use it as small values. All right. Let's try to export it so we can export it in different places in the code. So the first thing we want to do now is we want to. So now, most of the time when you're trying to build a backend application, you want to like have these endpoints that you call to be sure that your server is still alive. So that could be the base, but I think there's something there. We could call it anything actually, but I know there's something it's called like where you want to. Yeah, I remember like there's some setup that I've worked with. You just name it /health, and then you can send this. So basically, now in Express, you have just the way you have with app.listen, right? You have two parameters to two arguments to this particular app.get function, and the first one is the part you're calling, while the second one is the function that gets run. Now this function always comes with needs to always have like it has this request and then this response field. Now the request field is going to help you with anything you're getting from the browser and or anything you're getting from the clients. It could be an app, a mobile app, and the response field, which is this one. So I think we should just name it in full, but it doesn't matter because you'll probably see it a lot as rec and res. So rec is for request and res is for response. So anything that has to do with what you're getting from the server, from the clients, that's the browser or or a mobile app or anything like that that's acting as a client, and then this will help you get anything from there, like the host, the IP address of the clients, the data they are sending, and all of that. And then this rest will help you to send something back to the client. So it is what it is. So in this case, we're not trying to get anything from the client, right? We're just trying to we're just trying to send something back. So we're just going to say, I am good. I am melting. So let's try it. And since we're running this on localhost Oh my god. Running is on 3000. No, that's 8000. Sorry, this is 8000 here. Yes, so changed, and then we come here, slash get, yes. So by the way, just know one thing: if you try to access your server from the browser, which is not like the right way to access it, on a normal day, you want to access it from something like Insomnia or Postman. Like these are just, I have Insomnia here. I have Insomnia, right? This is Insomnia. I have Postman too, but I think in this case, I would want us to use Insomnia. So basically, you're supposed to be checking your server from something like this. Um, Something like this. Just a minute. Excuse me. Give me a minute, please. I think there is this. All right, so you could use something like localhost HTTP localhost. I mean, all right, HTTP localhost free. We're running at 8000, right? So you click 8000 send. So the reason why we're getting an empty get is because we don't have a path that has that. If I change this and remove the health and I have just normal slash, it's going to come in true and say I'm good, I'm LD. But let's get it back to what it is and say slash else, and then we do slash else. And yeah, it is what it is. I am good, I am LD, right? So this shows that, I mean, we're making a call and we're getting a response back, and as you can see, this response is not really like JSON. It's just like a pure text being sent. Most times you probably want to send JSON, and you could do that this way: rest.json, and I'm sure we do know what a JSON means, right? So JSON is just like an object, like a way of representing data, but inside curly brackets visually, and it has its own annotations and the likes. So basically, and because our server is restarting, I mean, it's already restarting, so we don't need to go back to restart. You can always click send, and you can see a message gets sent back. So now that's for health. So we were talking about, we want to start with an endpoint for adding the to do, right? So let's create an endpoint for adding the to do. So since this is a purely to do app, we're not going to create like complicated part names, because normally, like, if you're using a big app, you probably want to do like something like to do's slash get or slash post. No, sorry, not slash post, but like slash to do and all of that. But since this app is all about to do's, we don't need to have that. I mean, so we're just gonna leave the endpoint as post, right? And then we're going to try to send it to do. So we come back here, and I was trying to say this the other time. In your browser, anything, when you try to call your server from your browser, what it defaults to using a get verb, right? So here we could decide if what we wanted to use was a get, right? But then in the browser, you don't have the ability to be able to like do that. If you get what I'm trying to say, like there's no option there. So when you click localhost 8000, it defaults to a get. But if I click localhost 8000 slash else, right, it's still a get. So it sends me this message back. So that's just what I'm trying to say. Like your browser, whenever you're trying to make a call to the backend from your browser, it will always default to a get, right? From your browser to the backend, it will always default to a get verb. All right. That being said, I don't need there are other browsers that allow you to do that, but I mean, major browsers will always be like that. I think I need to get my system plugged in a minute. Yeah, it's charging now. So where do we go from here? So we want to be able to post, our a to-do app. So what you do normally in this situation is let's set it up here. So it's a post and it has no extra path name, right? And then you want to put it inside a body and then put pick JSON. I mean, you just want better to just pick JSON object, and then you create a JSON. And then we already said it initially that our JSON as this type our to do as described description, due date, priority. Now, by the way, we're still going to connect this to the front end, right? But for now, let's just work on the back end and make it all perfect before we start hooking it up. So we have our description, we have our due date, and we have our priority. So let's put it right here. Description. Can I get this zoomed out? It's kind of like zoomed out. Okay. Description. I wish this has an auto completion. Description. Let's just say description. Eating out. Due dates. For now, I'll do this. We're just gonna use string. Just say 28/08 2025, and then priority, we make the priority low. So priority here, yeah, we have high, medium, low. We could pick low here, and then we click send, right? So I'm wondering why I'm getting, okay, yeah, that's because here this is what we put here. So if I put here sent, right, if I come back here, I would get sent. So but then how do I get this object that I just sent? Because when you added this to the body parameter, this is what gets sent. Let's see a very, I'm trying to look for the like a very pure version of the request we just made, right? So this is a pure version of the request we just made. As you can see, it sends a post, it sends a host name, user, blah blah blah, and all of that, and then it sends a body and all of that, and this is the response you get back. So everything you're putting here is basically just being sent back. That's what I'm just trying to tell you. So one of the ways you do this is, I mean, a very basic way of making an API call, which is what we are doing here, is to do something called a call request, because it shows the basic calls that you're making. CURL, I'm not seeing it here. Excuse me, CURL. There's something called a CURL request. I need to show you guys. I think I'm supposed to get it right here, right? But anyways, I think it's so easy to copy here, but it's so easy to copy a CURL and put it inside in Insomnia, but it's not that easy to get out from what I'm seeing right here. Except maybe I just don't know how to do that. So let's move forward. So now, since you send this body request, right, to the backend, you're supposed to be able to retrieve it somewhere here, right? And you're supposed to be able to retrieve it from this rec, the body kind of stuff. I'm not sure it will work because there's still something I think we're supposed to do. So let's see if it does. Let's put it here. Let's try to see if it returns what we sent. If it was able to retrieve it from the body parameter. So I got it the body from here, right? So let's see if that works. It didn't work. So what we need to do, because if we're not getting it, that means this body is undefined, right? So there is something in Express that allows you to be able to get from body and to be able to use JSON. So we would search that, how to get JSON from body in Express. We need to install some things, and I hope you don't mind my style of teaching. It's not teaching, it's just me going through stuff with you. So basically, what you want to do is you want to use something called app.use. It's kind of like a middleware thing, meaning this would anytime something JSON like is coming through the front, through the through any of the endpoints here. These are endpoints. These are endpoints. This will help get the JSON out. So let's do it again. Send. Exactly, now you see it works. So it's actually receiving this from the backend. So one way you get to know that is we can decide to add something extra to this and say body dot accept accepted equals true. So if we do this, that means we've updated this body, this red the body we're receiving with a new field. So let's see that if it gets sent. Actually, as you can see, accepted true. So what happens here is that if you can see, there's no place we're actually sending this JSON to, right? It's just we're just playing around, sort of. So we need to find a way to store this. So let's move on to that. So the different ways to store your file, but I know like the very common way is using something like maybe Postgres or MongoDB. So let's try to install MongoDB pretty quickly on let's try to install MongoDB pretty quickly on Express. So MongoDB is just a database, but what we're installing on Express is not the MongoDB exactly. It's the package that allows you to connect to MongoDB. MongoDB is a server on its own. So we want to install a package inside Express that makes it easy for you to be able to interface and communicate with another with a MongoDB server somewhere. So let's see if MongoDB wouldn't fail us. Let's try to follow their tutorial right here. So we don't need to create an environmental variable. I don't want us to do that yet. So what we want to do is we want to create a file, right? But then no, I don't think I want to use this. I want to use hold on, I'm looking for another tutorial that probably uses a TypeScript. Okay, I think this is good for me. So basically, like, you could decide to use a pure MongoDB like a pure MongoDB package, but there's another package that is called Mongoose, right? Mongoose is a package built on top of MongoDB that just makes it way easier to work with MongoDB. It's a lot better for you to understand how MongoDB works, but it's a lot faster for you to understand how Mongoose works. If you can use Mongoose, you can start contributing to a lot of major CRUD applications. So I guess we're just gonna go with installing Mongoose. So since we're using Mongoose in this case, let's install Mongoose. npm install Mongoose. npm install Mongoose. It's gonna get installed, and then one thing we're not going to use, like, we're going to, instead of using a MongoDB that is on the site on the internet, we're going to create a local MongoDB that we're going to use, and we're going to be doing that using Docker, right? So that's also very simple. We just try to say, okay, run MongoDB server using Docker. I hope it doesn't bring me a long tutorial. Okay, cool. I could just use excuse me, more. I think I could just use this. But then before we get to that, let's first of all connect our MongoDB to let's create our MongoDB is going to be our ExpressJS app is going to be connected to MongoDB. So provide the MongoDB URI. Some of the tutorials are not what I want. So I think we should just go to the Mongoose npm installation. So yeah, I think this is better for us. Yes, it is actually better. So we run this. We import Mongoose. So let's import it from our index.ts file. We've installed it already, so we're importing it, and then let's try to using all right, no, that's not what I want. So we also do this in our file and say mongoose. So we try to connect to it. So it's better. I just want to. What do we do here? So let's just try to connect to it, from before we initiate any of our endpoints. And it's a promise. I think it's a promise, right? It's a promise. It has an await. So the fact that it's a promise simply means we could wait for it to connect first before we now connect to, our servers. But we really can't do an await, you know, outside of a function, outside of an async function. So we're just gonna make it like, asynchronously connect here. So now this place right here is where you put in the address of your MongoDB server. And since we're not using something on the internet, I wish it is just like, okay, so we could use Atlas. Atlas is like a cloud platform for running quick MongoDB servers. But then let's use this command we saw here and see if we can quickly run a Docker, is a MongoDB on our system using Docker. So let me check if my Docker is actually on. Yes, it's starting. So once it starts, okay. So once it starts, let me try to run. Is it starting? Has it started? Okay, I think the engine is running. Yes. So I would now come to a new tab, right? And then try to run Mongo. So basically, I don't want to run it using a couple of secrets, but I don't want to add passwords for now. I just want to make the installation very easy. So let's see if this does the magic. So Mongo and Docker, the container name is already in use. So we're gonna do a little bit of Docker manipulation. Okay, instead of doing Docker manipulations here, let's just try to change this to. Let's change the name to Mongo to do. So I think this means it's running. The way we know if this is running is that we would try to put, so we'll try to, the way we, okay, let's check out Docker and see if this is running. Right, so it's Mongo, right. I'm gonna assume this means it's running. There doesn't seem to be an error anywhere. There doesn't seem to be an error anyway. So we're going to use localhost, right? So basically, the one way we can actually check if this is running is to run Compass. So Compass is like a client, right, that allows you to connect to MongoDB servers either online or locally. So I'm going to do the default localhost is always, another name for localhost is 127.0.0.1. So I'll use that now instead of localhost because I think sometimes the IP address is a lot more dependable. So try to connect and okay, sorry, I think this is not it. This is not it. We are going to wait. I'm trying to be careful. Don't mind me. I already. Okay, yes, this is it. So this is the port that we need to use. This is connecting. We just connected to our MongoDB server. We just proved that actually it's working. So since this is what it's connecting as localhost 27888, that's the same thing as 127.0.0.1288. So we just put that in here. Sorry, what's it again? 27888. I hope you do understand what happened here. We installed Mongoose, right? Mongoose needs to helps us to connect to MongoDB. We would have used a MongoDB server that is running online, but then we decided to use a MongoDB server that is that we run locally. To make it faster, we decided to use Docker to run it, and this is where we use Docker to, as you can see, to run it. And this is the port we're running it on. We could decide to run it on another port if we choose to. Look at this. We could decide to run it on 27, 27889 instead of 27880, blah 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 and all of that. But then it is what it is. So let's see if we're connecting. Let's run this. Let's see if we're connecting. By the way, let me just check the Mongoose. Once connected, the open event is connected. There is a way you can check if you're connected. Anyways, we need to have a way to be sure that we're connected, right? We're going to Google that a bit. No, there's no need to Google that. We just check like the API docs, and we're going to make a call, and we're going to search for events. So events are just going to like show us the different kinds of event that exist on let's just check how to know if Mongoose is connected. I'm sure that's a very old way. I'm not sure though. Oh wow, this still it's unnecessarily weird. But then I think that if it is not connected, it's going to throw an error. So let's see if that happens. One way I've seen people do this is they put it inside this and probably put an async here and then await on it, right? And don't worry, get to figure it out. Coming. How to check if Mongoose is connected? We need something really recent. 2023 is recent. So calling Mongoose right here, saying connect, and then it's saying status. Alright. So this is a way to check, right? So now this is what I'm doing here. Whenever our server is starting, I'm also automatically trying to connect to Mongoose first. So excuse me. So this is how to check if Mongoose is ready. I run this status, Mongoose connection does ready state. If it is 1, that means it's connected. If it is not 1, that means it is not connected. So let's check. So it's 2, it's showing it's not connected. So let's use the original IP we're running at, which is 888 instead of 86. And let's see if that works. So I don't think that's still connected, and I'm assuming that's because of the extra database at the back. That's still weird because it's running right here. Just a minute, guys. Okay, so I think I know what is happening. We need to wait on this. Alright, so it's connected. So what happened initially was that we didn't wait for this to get connected. So I have waited on it, right? And then I checked, I get the status, and I checked this. So we're going to do something really quick here just to make our code a little bit neater. We're going to create an utis file, right? And then to that utis file, we're going to add a way to check if our Mongoose is to run our Mongoose, sort of to run our Mongoose. So basically just say create MongoDB connection, and then we'll make it async, and don't mind my we'll make it async, and then we paste what we had in the previous code, and then we import this, and then we import this, and so we export this. And so what this one does is it makes our MongoDB, it connects to our MongoDB, and at the same time also like checks the state of the MongoDB, right? So we just I don't need a lot of. So we just say if his status is connected, if it's not connected. So the only thing we're just doing here is we're just running this and say create MongoDB connection, right? And then we just say excuse me, database connected, database not connected. So here we could, one thing we could do is to throw an error whenever it's not connected, because our software, our server really relies on that. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to even like run the server when MongoDB is not connected. So it is what it is here. Database is connected, server is running. So let's try to see a situation where let's change this IP, this port number to something else. So it's going to throw an error if it's not connected. It should throw an error. So I think what is happening here is it's trying to make a lot of calls until it finds a connection. But before we do that, let's clear and start all over again. And I'm sure it's not finding that connection. That's why it's just starting, which is really weird. Because now we really don't know when the connection is happening or when it's not happening also. And I think what this person did here, excuse me, so as you can see, connection was not made. There was an error. So we could actually go deeper into trying to look for ways to debug, like not exactly debug, but find a way to easily return errors of when MongoDB is not connected. So I'm assuming that what really happens is whenever MongoDB can find a connection, it consistently tries to find it. And then, because as you can see here, it's this code is actually checking connection states every 5 seconds. I don't think we should go into all that for now. We could just move forward and get this back to what it was before, and then our database would be easily connected. So one of the reasons why it's good to use your local database is because it's way faster to work with. If you were connected to a database on the internet, it will not be this fast to connect to. We have latency issues. Latency meaning that it will take a bit of time for us to make that connection, and anytime your server restarts, it's a bit of a stress. Takes a bit of time. So the next thing we want to do now is we want to go back to actually creating our to-do app, right? So this is where we add a to-do. So we've gotten our body, like let's come back here, right? We sent our body to the backend. I want to add this body to MongoDB. But since we're using Mongoose now, so I will make a very quick explanation here. If we're using MongoDB package directly and not Mongoose, what happens in that situation is that excuse me please, I'm wondering why. Let's just leave it like that. So when you run MongoDB, when you use a MongoDB package directly instead of just a Mongoose package, because MongoDB has their own Node.js client that you can use to connect to MongoDB server, you wouldn't really need to set up what they call schemas. Like MongoDB accepts any kind of JSON file, and if you've had experience with database servers, like other forms of databases, like the SQL database and all of that, you need to it's a bit the schema is a bit rigid, right? Like you can't just send any kind of file. You need to be very sure the kind of fields you are sending. Like if you're using an SQL database, you probably be careful that you need to create a column for description, a column for due date, a column for priority. You can't just add anything extra. Although I'm assuming that there are actually some SQL servers that allows you to still add JSON, but then majorly they wouldn't allow you to do that. But in MongoDB, you could add any kind of JSON anytime you want into any kind of collection. But what Mongoose allows you to do is it creates a little bit of validation along that line. So, and that is why for Mongoose you need to create a schema. A schema simply means you need to represent your file. You need to represent your your data in a particular structure that determines how it gets saved. So we're going to copy this directly and create a folder called schema. So let's create schema, right? Basically we use we don't even need to create a folder because we're only probably going to have one kind of schema. So we'll create what we call it to do schema. Should I just, yeah, let's just create a to do schema, and then we do this, we do description, right? That would be string. We do due date. That would be, we could use date here now because I would explain later. So we could use priority. The reason I'm saying I'll explain later is because if you notice, we're sending our due date as strings, not as dates exactly. So by the time we're trying to save, we would convert that string into a date time. I hope that does not take our time. So then I think what happens is we create a model from that. So we do what we call, it's a do model, and then the name I'm putting in here will be the name of the collection in the database. So this will be to do, and then we had this to do schema. So let's go to the database level. Now in the database, in a Mongo database, you want to create in a Mongo database server, you want to create a database, and then these databases, we have a connection on them. So this admin config and local are just databases that comes with MongoDB. So you create a new one, and we call this one to do. And I think anytime you're creating it inside Atlas, you probably want, inside Compass, you probably want to specify a collection name to start with. So we're going to do, let's just name this to do DB, and let's name the collection we are saving it into to do, call it to do. But even if we delete this, Mongo will, oh my god. Anyways, let's try to do this. Let's try to create it directly from our code, and let's do slash to do db, right? And then this will be the name of the collection. So we're going to do something right now. We're going to try to save our first to do file. So going to come here and do something like let's just name it to do await to do model dot find one, and then we do import it from schema. So I was trying to return it, but sorry, not find one, we're trying to insert. Now there are several ways to do this, but I think the default way is to just do create, and then we get our, sorry, I'm doing it somewhere wrong, not inside health, sorry, we're doing it inside here. So we insert, I would want us to explicitly state how we're storing this. So we have description, we do body dot description, we have due dates, we do body dot due dates, and then we have priority, and then we save it with body dot priority, right? And then let's remove this from sending it back. So we click send. I'm sorry, I think the server is still trying to run. Okay, so if you noticed, we saved our due date as a date here, but when we're sending it into when we're sending it from here, we send it as a string. I'm not even sure we can send it as date here, but we're sending it as a string, right? So now the validation field, which was what I explained before, that Mongo helps you to maintain a certain kind of validation. So I think one quick thing, probably not so efficient thing, I don't know, we can do is to just add a new date wrapper around it, and then try to send it again. I think there's still an error, I suppose. Yes, I knew that was in it. By the way, let's start and let's try to do that again. So the due date, the invalid, it still fails. And I think one pre thing we can do here, and by the way, I'm trying to be sure I'm just trying to do quick manipulations and move forward. So we're just trying to figure out how to convert this a string into a date. So basically we just say string to a date in JS. So how do we do a string to a date? It's very funny that okay, let's do a slash instead. That's a slash. I mean, I'm wondering why this is failing. I'm super wondering why it is failing. So in saying invalid time value, so basically let's let's see what our due date looks like, right? And before we save it, let's see the way it looks like. Let's see what we're getting as a from the front end, and then let's see what is being converted into. So let's click send. We still fail, but there will be a console log. Oh my, oh my. I hope I'm not getting confused here. Let's close this up. And let's send it again. Okay. Okay, wait, let's see. I'm actually getting a little bit confused here, right? Because we're not saving this. We've cancelled it out, and I'm wondering why it's still leading to an error. Okay, said it. Okay. So the error here is not even with. Okay, I can see the error. So basically, the error is simple. I get the error now. So the error is just that the string we're sending from the front end is even so bad for a normal JavaScript, dates constructor. So let's see what we're sending. We're sending 28/08/2025. And from what I'm seeing here, it's kind of like okay to do that. We're using a slash. Okay, let's try to reverse it. And by the way, I'm just saying I'm not doing a lot of things. I'm just 2025. Let's see if this is the issue. Okay, it works now. It's not showing. No, we're not sure. Okay, that date is a good one. So it works for JavaScript. So we can actually do this. Try to put the dates back in here just the way we had it before, and then we close this up. So basically at the other time, like our formatting was not good enough for JavaScript, so we just changed it. We put the year at the beginning, the month in the middle, and then the day at the end, and we use the slash. I don't know if an hyphen works, but we've done what JavaScript wants. So now we just initiated it to do, like we just sent it to do. How would I say this? We just clicked enter right now, and we just sent this API request, and it says message sent, and this was there when we did that. So that means our to do has been saved. So let's go to the database, reload it, and you can see here eating out, due date low. So we delete this because I still want to make a new one, and in this new one I'm going to be returning, because now when you save it to do and when you create it to do, you should expect it will return the same object back, but with an ID, a special ID that has been attached to it by MongoDB. So we're going to put that in here. We're going to put that as data equals to do, and then we're going to say status let's say no, let's just say no, status successful. It's a lot of things I'm not explaining here because I just remembered I could try to explain, status codes. Status codes are just like codes that your backend will automatically send to the front end to tell it if it's working fine or not. But we'll do that later on. An example of, if you look at here, sending it 200, right? You could also overwrite the status code yourself, but I mean by default it sends you 200 whenever the request is successful. So as you can see here, the data is eating out. The due date is saved correctly, 2025 9, converted, and then the priority is low. And if you check the database, is working. So what we want to do now is we want to retrieve it to do so. For me, it's going to be faster, so we want to retrieve to do. So when you're retrieving it to do, when you're retrieving a file, basically you want to put the ID. You want to use app.get instead because you're getting the file, and then you want to use the ID to retrieve the file, right? So most of the time people just use the MongoDB attached ID, right? So we're going to do that here. So we've attached like an ID here, and let's see how you get that in Mongo. I think it's pretty easy. We don't even need to search Google. There are several ways to do that. We're not sending a body anymore. We just want to get this file back. So we're going to change our API call. We're going to change this one from post to get, and then we're going to put this one right in front of it, right? And then so this is empty for now, right? Exactly. So when we put this ID here, we can get it from params.id. So this colon ID is just I don't want to use the word placeholder, but like a reference to what we are putting here. As you can see, is / this ID. So if we click send, let's console log this ID and be sure it's getting returned the way we want. Click send again, and then as you can see, it's getting console logged. And we could actually name it anything we want. We could just name it a D, right? That means it will change this one into a D, right? And then let's click send. Let's click send again, and then as you can see, it's a D, right? ID D, and all of that. So basically, look at it, just to be sure, very sure. Right, it's still a D, it's still getting sent here. So let's change it back to ID. Change this back to ID. So to get this from MongoDB, what you have to do is just to let's even copy what we have there. So you use a command called, you call the same model, right? So models are just like the bridge or the vehicle into your collection. So this is what is called collection, what you have here. And by the way, this name to do is it picked it from what we added to Mongo's here. Wow, it didn't pick it from there. Really, it didn't. But then I feel like maybe Mongoose has a way of manipulating his way through to create these things the way they want. I was thinking we should do a little bit of an experiment here. Let's change this one to bro. No, do we have the time to do that? Let's see what Mongoose does when we change this to bro. And then let's try to do what we did initially. Let's try to post it, and let's see what MongoDB does. Excuse me, more. Let's comment this out for now. So let's do that. So let's see what happens here. So MongoDB has a way of like maybe changing on the names of the file of the collection based on the name you described in its own way. I think so. This is not a Mongoose tutorial like full blown, so we're just going to continue all the same. So enough of experimenting for now. Let's go back to what we're doing. And I think this is meant to be, it's better to be lowercase. And then let's Let's delete all the unnecessary. Let's drop the collection, bros. Let's drop this to do to. So let's make our call again afresh, and then let's come back here. So to do's, yeah, cool. And then let's so now let's do our gets, right? So we were actually trying to create a get before we started experimenting. We tried to create a get request before we started experimenting, and then we'll call this our ID right here, and then we'll put it right here, right? And then we click send, and then there'll be an error because this is not well done yet. So what do? We get this .id, and then we do what we call a find one. So a find one basically just looks for, let's say we have a lot of files, right? So one way we can do that is this. Let's create multiple files, right? This will make it easy for, let's add multiple files, multiple MongoDB files, so that we can get multiple things we want. Let's do description, reading. For people that don't like reading, 2026 is high priority, but you're still procrastinating on it. And then if you check your DB again, it's added. So let's add a new one, sleeping. For those that like to, play games into the night. So you postpone sleeping to 2027, and you put it as medium priority, and then you do that again, and then we have about three to dos right now. So let's try to get a couple of them, right? So we're not sending anything anymore, so it's not returning anything because we're not returning anything here. So basically when we had it, so let's pick an ID here for the first one, and we put it right here, and then we click send. It shouldn't return anything really, because it should probably slow down because we didn't send a res.json. So I guess Express is confused what to return and when to return. So that's why it will keep running, because there is no return stuff here. You didn't do a res.json. So let's save it from its mystery and cancel it. And then, so we find one and we do something like div ID, right? So it will return the to do. So we do something like this, what we did initially, right? So it gets the to do, add it here, and then click successful. And then we come back here and then we do send, and as you can see, it returns it. So let's change the ID to the last one we sort of try to get. See, it returns the sleeping. Let's try to get this other one too. Alrighty, so it's all done. So basically now we've been able to do a couple of things that I wanted to do. We've been able to add it to do. We've been able to get it to do, which we didn't even have yet the first time. We've been able to get it to do, get to do. So now what we want to do is I want to be able to delete it to do, and that's pretty easy too. So we just create another endpoint, right? App.delete, we use the delete verb, and then we state the kind of the ID we want to delete in the path, and then we do async as we always have. It's going to be an async request because you're doing an await inside. Calls to the DB is always a promise most of the time. So we do something called await to do model.delete one, yes, delete one, and then we provide the ID as ID. So what happens here is we don't need to return anything basically, because I think what gets returned here is of no value, because once it doesn't show an error, right, we're good. It will get here. But if it shows an error, it wouldn't get here. So let's try to delete something right now. So let's try to delete the first one. So we change this to .delete, right? We change this ID to something else, and then we click send. So what we do here is the only thing it's going to send back is successful. So it's successful, right? So let's reload this and see if it's deleted. So it's deleted, right? But let's try to delete an ID that doesn't exist. Let's just put a crazy ID. So we're just gonna don't let me do something crazy. So let's see what happens in this case. So there's an error, right? Now the error is given is saying that this new that I suggested is not an accepted ID. It's not even looking for ID. It's just it's stopping at the mongoose level. Mongoose level is telling me, okay, dude, the ID you're sending is not a mongoose ID. Go look for something else. So I'm going to create a fake mongoose ID, right? I think there's a way you do this, right? Mongoose object ID, right? Coming. Let me see. Random ID mongoose. So it's pretty easy to do. Yeah, I'll just copy this. Yes. So this is a random ID, right? This is okay. Let's even try to create it here, so you can see what a random ID looks like. So just create a random mongoose ID and console log it so we can see how it looks like. A random mongoose ID. So we'll put the random ID here. So let's say random ID, random ID, random ID. So it's going to try to, we'll try and delete a random ID and see what happens. So we do send. Now it seems successful, but now this is the random ID created. But when you come here, nothing was deleted, right? So to mitigate against that, you return what mongoose, you get a return value and see what mongoose is actually saying anytime it deletes. So let's do console log ret to see what was returned. So you can say send, right? As you can see, it said acknowledge true, deleted count 0. So let's try to delete something real, right? And see what happens. Let's see the difference in the return value. Right, so if you look at it, hold on a minute. Okay, so basically, oh god, let's remove this, let's do the normal ID, yes, so you can get the ID from the front end. Let's show ret. So the other time, what did he say? He said deleted count 0. So let's see what it says now. In this time around, it says deleted count 1, and if you come here, it's actually truly deleted. So one way we can actually let the front end know that nothing was deleted is to get the deleted count, right? So simple thing we can do is just say, let's remove all this, right? You just say if ret dot deleted count equals 0, then status failed. So we just click return, right? The reason I'm putting in return is so that it can stop here and it wouldn't have to come here and try to send successful too. So let's do that. Failed because this ID has already been deleted. Like this file has already been deleted. So if I try to delete a new one, right? It should tell me successful because it was existing. So that's kind of like the whole thing for get, post, and read. So I guess I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to do another video where we try to, update and then list. Those ones are easy, and then we go from there to hooking it up to our server, our browser. Thank you.